Water, 70% of the Earth's surface, up to 90% of our body's vital organs. It is the essence of life itself. The hydrologic cycle of rain, followed by evaporation and condensation, has sustained our planet for billions of years. Under natural conditions, rain and snow fall on forests and meadows, soak into the ground, and are purified underground by natural process on their way into the groundwater table or nearby streams and lakes. The next time you're in a rainstorm, watch where the water goes. Does it soak into the ground, form a puddle, or flow off toward a storm drain? The precipitation that does not soak into the ground or evaporate is called stormwater runoff. It flows over the ground surface and into storm drains and ditches that empty directly into our local waterways, and that is how problems can develop. A variety of created surfaces now cover much of our communities. Most of these surfaces are impervious, which means water cannot pass through them. Even home lawns absorb far less than natural areas do. A high percentage of rainwater and snowmelt is prevented from following the natural cleansing course into the soil. These impervious surfaces also act as a speed ramp, increasing the volume, velocity, and power of the flowing water. That rushing water takes the fast lane to low-lying areas and receiving waters, easily carrying debris and pollutants with it. And when the rain falls fast or for a prolonged period of time, flooding is the result, a fact we've unfortunately witnessed firsthand in the recent past. The property damage and heartache caused by the flooding has helped bring about a renewed awareness and resolve in Marion to combat the problems that stormwater has brought to the community over the years.
It's very interesting if you go back, back into the early 1900s in the newspapers, and you'll find accounts of Indian Creek flooding. So we do have floods. It's just something that we need to get under control, and we have to take care of in the best we can for the benefit of all our citizens.
It's generally accepted that you cannot prevent flooding, but you can prevent flood damage or try to prevent it as best you can. That's why we're trying to keep the waterways open and trying to prevent damage to any kind of homes or businesses.
But the old concept of stormwater being only a flooding and drainage issue no longer stands. And the old concept that pollution from factories is the only serious threat to our waters also no longer stands. Industrial waste has long been regulated and brought under control by strict government laws and regulations. Now, stormwater is recognized as a major contributor of pollutants to the surface waters of our nation. This type of pollution is sometimes called non-point source pollution, because it comes not from a single discharge pipe at a factory, but from a wide variety of sources dispersed over the landscape, resulting from our own everyday activities, even in our own driveways and backyards. With that in mind, the City of Marion and the community at large have made a commitment to tackling head-on the issues of both the quantity and the quality of its stormwater.
Stormwater is something that needs to be managed. It needs to be controlled.
Marion's been trying to figure out how to deal with not only the stormwater that we generate, but the stormwater that's coming our direction from north and west and east of the city. And because of that, we've had to really take a hard look at our stormwater management practices.
I certainly hope that our community will embark on a path that we do set some standards that help us protect the community, that protect water quality, that also protect the quantity and the speed of runoff. All of those things are connected.
It is something that starts at the homeowner's side, and even a small change that can handle as much as 50 gallons in a rain, when you multiply that over 10,000 households, you're talking about a significant difference.
As you'll soon see, there's a lot we can all do in our community and even in our own yards to help keep our waterways clean.
So we get an inch of rain once in a while. That's not a big deal, is it?
You might be surprised.
When we get 3 or 4 or 5 inches of rain over a short period of time, that's when people call us. When their real concern should be that 1-inch rain, because that's when the environmental impact is the highest. It may not put water in your basement, but it puts that oil and first flush minerals into our system and into our environment, that has a greater impact on a community as a whole.
When just 1 inch of rain falls on the entire city of Marion, it's suddenly dealing with approximately 275 million gallons of water. That's enough to fill a football field-sized hole 500 feet deep. Multiply those numbers by the 36 inches of precipitation we receive annually, and now we're talking about nearly 10 billion gallons of water falling on Marion this year and every year. Naturally, some rain soaks into the ground, and some forms puddles that evaporate. But as the amount of rainfall increases and the ground becomes saturated, as much as 50% of that rain can become runoff during large rainfall events. As a result, millions of gallons can flow across lawns and pavement on the way to the storm sewers.
Why should I worry? I mean, I don't have a flooding problem.
As we've seen, stormwater is a community problem, with 2 main components directly related to urban development: the increased volume and speed of surface runoff and the concentration of numerous pollutants in that runoff.
There has been more of an emphasis on water quality. It just so happens that water quality practices and water quantity practices can go hand in hand. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
The philosophy 30 years ago was to not treat any more of the water than was necessary or considered necessary at that time. Today we look at treating as much of the water as possible.
And the attitude and the methods that have been used to manage stormwater have changed quite a bit. It used to be that the philosophy was get it into the biggest pipe you can and get it away from the community as quickly as possible. But as we discovered, especially in 2008, that sends a lot of water down to your neighbors.
That's right, just like living down by the riverside, whatever you let get into the water can go downstream to a neighboring community. Think of our storm sewers as underground rivers beneath our homes.
Excuse me, sir, do you know where these drains lead to?
Wouldn't that be the sewage treatment plant?
Most people think that when it rains and it cleans those areas off your yards and off your streets and so forth, that water is treated.
What goes down the storm sewer basically goes directly to a waterway.
Stormwater is actually dumped into the creeks directly and not treated at this point.
That's right. Stormwater is not treated or even filtered of trash, and the drains in the street send everything that goes into them right into our area's creeks and rivers. In other words, what goes in here flows into here. This is Indian Creek, where most of the stormwater in Marion flows. The area that drains to it is called its watershed, which in our area is the Indian Creek Dry Creek watershed. The water then continues on its way to the Cedar River, the Mississippi, and eventually all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. One of water's greatest abilities has now become one of modern society's problems. Water is the best natural solvent in existence. That means it can dissolve and carry away a bit of nearly everything it touches. Consider what it did to the Grand Canyon. Now consider how our daily activities often cover surfaces with a coating of unpleasant and often hazardous materials. Pet waste, toxic metal particles, pesticides, fertilizers, leaking oil, gasoline and grease, harmful bacteria, excess nutrients, waste paper, trash, and more. But urban communities aren't the only sources of pollution. Stormwater runoff from rural areas in the watershed can also play a role, from residential development, waste from farm animals, and cropland treated with fertilizers and other chemicals.
In some cases, there can be nutrient and pesticides that would run off from an agricultural field. We try to work with farmers to reduce those problems. In some cases, there could be soil erosion.
Things that happen in the county affect Marion and affect Cedar Rapids and affect the county all over again. So it's a pretty circular path. And so it's important that we really think both about development and also how we handle agricultural development.
Every time it rains, the accumulation of soil and pollutants can be washed into local waterways. As a result, the quality of that water is degraded, in extreme cases to the point where it can no longer support wildlife. and the waters become unsuitable for swimming, fishing, or drinking.
There are multiple organizations who have rated our creeks and rivers as some of the most impaired in the nation because they're highly sedimented and they have a high degree of chemical runoff in them. A lot of that is related to our agricultural work, so there's a lot of nitrates in the water. So we do have to pay attention to both aspects of this. It's both the quality of the water as well as how fast it runs off, how much of it there is.
While the rural area of Lynn County is far larger than its urban area, the environmental effects of a city are much greater per acre. That's due to the population density and all of the impervious surfaces that have been added. Marion continues to steadily and successfully increase its population at roughly 1,000 new residents each year, as portions of our rural landscape are chiseled away to develop sites for new housing and businesses. The environmental effects can be immediate. Improperly set up construction sites can be a leading cause of water quality problems. With vegetation stripped away during construction, bare soil is exposed to the surface and becomes susceptible to erosion during rain. In fact, uncontrolled erosion on a 1-acre construction site can allow the equivalent of 1.5 dump truck loads of dirt to be washed away to the sewers and deposited in shallow waterways. Compared to the past, there is now a much greater awareness of these problems by city leaders and developers alike.
I think there's been a very good positive change in the attitude towards runoff and mud and spreading of those materials on streets and adjacent properties from what it used to be like. I think all the developers, all the contractors have become very aware of the need to manage that.
A developed piece of land has to control the water that falls on it as if it was not developed. So we don't have situations anymore when people can just automatically build something and not worry where the runoff is going to go. Parking lots are part of it, roofs are part of it. Anytime you take soil away.
So you try to set a good balance between what you can do while still promoting development. You also put some rules in place that help protect the community for the long term.
Builders are now required to install practices such as silt fences like these to trap sediment that washes off construction sites before it flows into area waterways. And they cover bare soils with straw mats to prevent it from washing off the surface. They're also required to install other practices that keep soil and debris from entering the streets, such as stone tracking pads. On a larger scale throughout our communities, new neighborhoods are now designed and built with enhanced water handling capabilities already in place. Stormwater retention ponds are designed to store a neighborhood's runoff long enough for the water and pollutants to settle out and reduce flood risk. Some ponds are also designed to promote infiltration of stored water into the ground, where it's purified and recharges groundwater.
We've really seen an evolution in the way stormwater management is conducted. We've gone away from the philosophy of putting bigger pipes in the ground and trying to go more towards regional projects that take care of water on a regional basis so that we're not festooning the community with little ponds all over the place.
We have one regional basin in town, and when it fills up to capacity, people often get nervous upstream and downstream to see that amount of water being backed up, when in fact it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's limiting the water going downstream and allowing the water to slow down to allow the pollutants to drop out.
We're also doing more with different types of stormwater management, things like using bioswales on large road projects rather than installing more storm sewer. As we've been discovering, sometimes these projects have the advantage of being both better for the environment and less expensive. It costs less for us to put in a bioswale, for example, than it does to enclose the whole area with concrete pipe and turn it into an underground storm sewer. It also gives us the ability to take advantage of the natural absorption of the soil to send less water downstream, so it is a dual benefit.
It's proactive planning and community-wide efforts such as these that are the keys to better controlling the stormwater problems we face. There are many positive actions we can all take to turn back the tide of troubled waters and greatly reduce our effect on the environment. Here are just some of the things you can do in your own yard and neighborhood. Conserve water. Keep your rain. Maximize infiltration in your yard by directing rainwater away from paved areas. Plant a rain garden filled with attractive grasses and wildflowers to maximize water absorption into the ground. If you can't have a rain garden, aim your downspouts away from the pavement and onto grassy areas or into a rain barrel. Keep leaves and grass clippings out of the street, gutter, drainage ditches, and storm drains. Let your lawn reach a height of 2 to 3 inches to better capture rainwater. When you do mow, leave the lawn clippings on and blow or